Good morning, everyone. On the occasion of first anniversary of Dr.M.V.L.K. Chair of Medical Humanities Division, we are having this function today, for which we have renowned guests and dignitaries with us. Before we begin on to the formal activities and the function, which is understanding poetry and reading poetry, I would begin by calling upon Dr. Padmaja Madam to give you an overview of the annual report of various activities of the Humanities Division which happened in the last 1 year.
Patel.
Madam.
Annual report.
Good morning, respected teachers and friends. I would be quickly going through what all events we conducted in last year. Dr. Pandya is our chair of Medical Humanities. He is being professor and head of neurosurgery. Our unit comprises of Dr. M.V.L.Kothari, who is our senior most member, myself, Dr.M.V.L.Kothari from PSM department, Dr. Nandini Dave, who is professor in anesthesiology, Dr. Kamath, Dr. Salagre and Dr. Smriti Bajpai. Our advisors are Dr. Mehta. Actually, Dr. Lopa Mehta is whole and soul of this division, but and Dr. Ravi. Originally, it was his idea much before, around 2012, to start a section on medical humanities. And then there are Dr. G.S.MEDICAL, Dr. Kothari, Dr. Daftari, Dr. Vaidya, Dr. Parikh, Dr. Kamdar, Dr. Bora and Dr. Mrs. Dastur. These are our advisors. Next. So we had in the last year exactly, we had a screening of this movie, biographical film on Dr. Anandibai Joshi. And it was, the session after that was moderated by Dr. Anjali Kirtane, and then there was a guest lecture by Dr. M.V.L.Kothari. In February, we had orientation program for interns by Dr. Sunil sir. Next. Dr. Ravi spoke to our students in the month of April and about balancing in general life and life in medicine. Next. In the month of May, there is this institution which is Samaritans Mumbai. It is part of Worldwide Samaritans, and they work in area of suicide prevention, and they had spoken to our students on work-related stress and managing their lives, and so the team of Samaritans was there. We had screened the movie in the month of May. Dr. Parker had conducted a session on causes of aggression and unruly behavior, and we had screened the movie One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Next. Dr. Nandini Ballat, who is an anesthesiologist by training, and she has been working in the field of palliative care. She had spoken to our staff and students on palliative care, care beyond cure. Mrs. Dastur had her own documentary film was screened in July, named Getting Better. Following the earlier lecture on palliative care, a 2-day workshop was conducted along with Tata Memorial Center on palliative care by KEM. Next. Then there have been series of programs involving students. There was, in Confluence, there was a program on photography contest. The winners were Yash Kedia and Himani Murdeshwar. Next. Then Connaissance, Innovation, these were all various programs with UG students. Next. Paparazzi essay writing competition. Next. Dr. Sanjay Nagral, who is our ex-KEM, he is a hepatobiliary surgeon. He spoke to students in the month of October on rifles, rabble and rebels. Next. Dr. Sanjay conducted a program on poetry and science and medicine, seeking facts or just a sensation. And there were guests from overseas, Sylvia Gist, Sridhara Swami and Anita Thampi, who recited their poems. Our own students also recited their poems. Next. Dr. Morparia, I believe almost all of you must have seen cartoons by Dr. Morparia. He is alumnus of KEM and he spoke to our students in the month of December. Other activities are, there have been lectures and articles recommended or sent by our advisory board, mainly by Dr. Pandya and staff members, and they have been put on intranet and they are readily accessible for staff and students. All the programs are being recorded and they will be placed on YouTube soon. And 2 feature films till now, Florence Nightingale and Patch Adams, have been screened for our students and UG and PG students. Under Avishkar, there was a competition held on humor, and we have been conducting interviews of all the past teachers and doctors from the institute, and they will be placed on YouTube link and will be available for G.S.MEDICAL on G.S.MEDICAL website. Next. This is a list of our donors. Next. And last but not the least, it wouldn't have been possible for us to conduct these events without secretarial assistance, photography, printing, rangoli and presentation. Mr. Suhas Maitre, Prashant Jadhav, Badal Patil, these are actually the backbone of our division. Thank you so much.
Now that we've given you an overview of what all activities our chair did in the last 1 year, let's begin for the activity for today. For today's session on reading and understanding poetry, we would first like to call upon our chairperson, Our chairperson for today is a renowned physician. To say something about Sir is like, I think so, I feel a little person saying too much for a person who is of such a big stature. I am sure everyone in this auditorium would be aware of this name called Dr.M.V.L.Kothari. So, to the uninitiated and the knave, Sir has been awarded as distinction in medicine in both MBBS and MD examination. He has pretty much received every possible award. He's been elected as Fellow of the Royal College of Physicians, Edinburgh in 1969 at the age of 38. He was the youngest ever person to be elected so. He's the Emeritus Professor of Medicine at Grant Medical College. He's the consultant physician and consultant in charge of intensive care at Breach Candy Hospital. He's appointed the consultant physician to Governor of Maharashtra since 1977. He's been awarded Padma Bhushan. He has numerous publications, 60 plus national, international, awarded the Giants International Award for Excellence in Field of Medicine, Medal in Oration at the first meeting of Critical Care Society of India at Bombay, 1995. He has been awarded the Dhanvantri Award by the Dhanvantri Foundation in 1996. I can go on and it will never end. So here we welcome Sir with floral bouquets. Welcome, Sir. Our speaker for the day, the one who is going to conduct the session, Dr. Gieve Patel. Dr. Gieve Patel is a practicing physician. He was born in 1946 in Mumbai. He's a self-taught artist, a poet, and a playwright. He held his first show in Mumbai in 1966 and went on to have several major exhibitions in India and abroad. He's participated in the Menton Biennale, France in 1976, Myth and Reality, Oxford in 1982, Contemporary Indian Art, Royal Academy, London in 1982. He has also exhibited for Contemporary Indian Art, Grey Art Gallery, New York, 1985, Indian Art from Hurwitz's collection, Worcester Art Museum, Massachusetts, 1985, and Coutts de Cour, Geneva, 1987. The human situation with its rough edges, which are at the same time not devoid of poetry, are transmuted on the canvases of Gieve Patel. Acutely conscious of the ordinary man, his figures are often set within cityscapes, and as they go about performing their pose, they raise this close observation of their clothes, postures, and stances. The brush with reality shows the painter to then explore its complex paths. Sir lives and works in Mumbai. To give you few of his works, these are some of his oil and canvas postings. Two Men with Handcart. The next, please. Fishers and the water tank at Narbonne. Without further ado, we would like to welcome Dr. Gieve. I would now like to call upon Sir to take over the dais and express his views. Sir.
Dr. Patel, Dr. Pandya, students, ladies and gentlemen, this should be a very interesting session. You would wonder what medical students or medical doctors for that matter need to know about poetry. Well, I think some of you must have heard of this statement that the proper study of mankind is man. And the proper study of medicine really is also man. You don't just study his organ systems compartmentalized, but you study every aspect of man. His pleasures, his passions, his anger, his love, his hate, his envy, also his charity, his love. You don't see that and will not find that in a textbook of medicine. You will find them outside the textbook of medicine. Perhaps you all know that no disease presents itself in exactly the same way in two different individuals. Why is that so? The response of the body to stress of disease is different in different individuals. The physiological adaptation to that response is also different. It depends upon his emotional stability, his physical endurance, his mental endurance, his physique, his character, and also his genes, about which we are beginning to know more and more. Now, you won't find all this again in a textbook of medicine. Therefore, to understand man in his proper perspective, in all his manifold aspects, is important. And if you do that, you become a better physician. I would like to summarize this in one sentence, that the knowledge of humanities makes undoubtedly for a better physician. And poetry is one aspect or one branch of humanities. Now, Dr. Gieve Patel, we are fortunate to have him, because it's unusual to have a doctor who is renowned both as an artist, a playwright, and also practices his own profession. The modus operandi, I think, which we have discussed, is Dr. Patel will read out his poem and will perhaps give his impression on that poem and throw it open to you boys and girls to see what you make of it. And we'll do that quickly from one poem to the other. And perhaps then Dr. Patel might give you some general concept on the understanding of poetry. Finally, I will make a short comment, and maybe I may have the liberty of reciting a few poems which I love, which I've told Dr. Pandya as well. Doctor.
Thank you, Dr. Udvaria. The marvelous, eloquent introduction is really going to inspire me to do my best with the poems that I'm going to read. I'd earlier planned that I would read all the poems and that at the end of that one would have a discussion. But Dr. Udvaria came up with this far better plan, that I should read a poem or a couple of poems by a particular poet and comment on it, and then while the impression is fresh with you, we could engage in a discussion. And Dr. Udvaria has promised to keep an eye on the clock. I'm going to read you two poems by Arun Koladkar, a poet who lived and worked in Bombay. He died about approximately 8 years ago, in his late 60s. These two poems are from a set of poems which are a little book which is called Jesuri, and the poems are written after his visit to this little Maharashtrian temple town, which is like a 2-hour motor ride from Pune. It's a rocky, barren place, and there are a lot of broken down temples there. And the only way the people around there survive is on tourist trade and pilgrim trade. It's still a place where people come for worship. The worship that is conducted is not worship of the great Hindu pantheon, Shiva and Vishnu and so on, but of small local gods, Khandoba and Hanuman as Maruti and so on. And so the whole book is tilted towards a sympathy for the more humble gods, and as a corollary for the more humble human being who worships these gods. I think you'll get what I'm trying to say when I read this first poem, which is called Heart of Ruin. The roof comes down on Maruti's head. I have one request, which is that if you have the page in front of you, please put it away and listen to me, because it's very important to hear a poem, and dividing of attention, between the voice and the page is a no-no thing. Heart of Ruin. The roof comes down on Maruti's head. Nobody seems to mind, least of all Maruti himself. Maybe he likes a temple better this way. A mongrel page has found a place for herself and her puppies in the heart of the ruin. Maybe she likes a temple better this way. The bitch looks out at you guardedly, past a doorway cluttered with broken tiles. The paria puppies tumble over her. Maybe they like a temple better this way. The black-eared puppy has gone a little too far. A tile clicks under its foot. It's enough to strike terror in the heart of a dung beetle and send him running for cover to the safety of the broken collection box that never did get a chance to get out from under the crushing weight of the roof beam. No more a place of worship. This place is nothing less than the house of God. I think I've read this poem hundreds of times, but I have really, each time, to control myself so that I don't break down at the last line. It is so moving. I think that the practice of worship has been so degraded over centuries by human beings that this extraordinarily innocent statement, no more a place of worship, this place is nothing less than a house of God, it just goes to the center of your heart. You know, it tells you everything that you need to know about the relationship between God and man. And I think, don't really need to elaborate too much, but just make a few points, you know. He's, again, not talking about the grand temples, he's not talking about Meenakshi and Tirupati and places like that, you know, where, unfortunately, much of the worship has become very commercial, as we all know. So, in a way, this poem is a small man's poem, and it's for a small man. And it is all the more grand and lofty and sublime because of that. You'll find that Arun Kolatkar is very playful with his language. You see the way he has repeated, maybe he likes a temple better this way, maybe she likes a temple better this way, right? And he says that the roof crashing on Maruti's head and maybe Maruti doesn't mind. You know, this kind of like tongue-in-cheek humor pervades the whole book. If you have a chance to look at that book, you know, I think you'll really enjoy it. But I'm reading one more poem from the book, where again his inventiveness with language is apparent. And this poem is called The Butterfly. There's a preceding poem where a little boy is taking tourists around and showing them various temples. And then he's distracted when he sees this butterfly. So there's a whole poem, a short poem on the butterfly. The butterfly. There's no story behind it. It is split like a second. It hinges around itself. It has no future. It is pinned down to no past. It's a pun on the present. It's a little yellow butterfly. It has taken these wretched hills under its wings. Just a pinch of yellow. It opens before it closes. And it closes before it, oh, where is it? It's just playful, I mean, line by line, you know, and each line is a delight. And you know, there are very few poets that can use language in this way. To say that a butterfly is split like a second, you know, it evokes the form of the butterfly, it evokes its speed, and it evokes us talking about a split second, right? It hinges around itself like a door, right? It's a pun on the present. Why? Because it has no past, it has no future. Its life is that short, right? So on and so forth. So that's Arun Kolatkar, and maybe Doctor, you talk about it?
Yeah. May I first? May I? May I request any one of those listening to this poem to make comments? Anyone? Please come on. It has to be an interactive session. Some of the students who have heard this, or anyone here on the benches here, anyone? Anyone wanting to make a comment on this?
Or a question for that matter.
More questions for that matter. Please go on. Yes, please.
In the first poem, The Heart of Ruin, we saw that the lives are quite intermingled, like with the puppy, the bitch and the puppies. Lives is intermingled with that of the beetle. Like when the puppy moves, the beetle gets the chance to get out. So I just felt that each of our lives are interconnected and we each influence each other's life in some other form or the other. And in the second poem, The Butterfly, the point where you said it is not pinned down to the past. Like in butterfly, we know the stages are the caterpillar and the cocoon, and then it becomes the butterfly. So after the cocoon, the butterfly develops wings and it flies. So it's not pinned down to the past. So that line I quite like quite a lot.
Thank you. That's a wonderful comment. Thank you very much. You know, you are quite right. I mean, I think that both the poems show a tremendous sympathy with simple lives, and not only human lives, but the lives of modest, humble animals as well. Yeah, somebody had their hand.
Yeah. The first point which you said about that Khandoba and Morphy, the concept was very nice because we are coming from small places from Maharashtra and presenting here at City Medical College. We were stumbled in the atmosphere of Mumbai, but I think so he was the first to take us in that atmosphere and making us realize what actually life of farmer is. And the second point of
Just speak in the mic. Speak in the mic, please.
And the second poem of Butterfly, you just speak, it is like a second the butterfly comes and it goes, that also tells the various phases of life. And both the poems were extremely heart-touching, and thank you sir for such poems.
Thank you. Thank you.
I felt a little uneasy. If somebody were to rebuild that poem, temple tomorrow, what would happen to the dog, the puppy, and the last line, house of God, where each one has entry, there is no discrimination, each one has a place, and if we had to rebuild it, how would we account for presence of each one? How would we allow each one to worship? Because it is known that in our temples all are not allowed or all are not welcomed with equal warmth.
Yes, I think that Kothari was probably fairly confident that for a considerable amount of time at least, those temples were not going to be repaired. I think they're too minor, to become heritage sites yet. I mean, that's my hunch. But yeah, sure, if they were to be renovated, it would be a pity.
There is a touch of sadness, or in Sanskrit you call it Vishada, in the first poem.
Absolutely.
And the second poem reminds you of Robert Frost.
I think these two lines are indeed remarkable, and I've read them again and again and again and again, and I've really pondered what it really means. When he says, no more a place of worship this place, because it's a ruin, it's broken down, but it still is a place of God. It has perhaps a greater meaning that a house of God does not necessarily have to be a temple.
Wonderful, absolutely, yes.
I think that's, perhaps you have to keep that in mind. A house of God can be anywhere. In other words, it means that God is in permanence all over. And you can search Him anywhere you want, in any house you go to, even if it is a ruined temple. That's how I would look. And the other interesting thing is, notice one thing here. Everyone runs away, everyone scampers away from the fall, except the God himself. And he doesn't mind it. Alright? But look at this. Where is it gone? Yes. It's enough to strike terror in the heart of a dung beetle and send him running for cover to the safety of the broken collection box that never did get a chance to get out. In other words, he shutters the collection box which gathers money and says that's not really what
temple is about. Yeah.
Everyone escapes. The beetle escapes, the puppy escapes, everyone gets out of the way, everyone scampers. But it's a collection box which cannot get out of the way and which is smashed to pieces. I think there is a moral in that also, in relation to, the donations, etc., and the money that they give, so that God can grant you favors.
Wonderful.
I think we go on to the next one. Okay?
Yeah, thank you. Yes.
Yes, I must say about that. It's a beautiful, as you pointed out, I mean, it's so imaginative. it's so imaginative, it's so simple. Every word, every sentence is so simple, and I love this. It has no future. It is pinned down to the past. It's a pun on the present. Beautiful, simple words. Time present is contained in time past and future, and time past and time future with time past. If all time is eternally present, time is inalienable, which means present, past and future are so closely linked together.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you.
Which one now?
Yes, I'm going to read a poem by the French poet François Villon. He lived in the 14th century France. I'll have a little preface before I read the poem itself. 14th century France, remember France is a Catholic country, and in the 14th century you must remember that it would have been even more strongly Catholic than it is today. Villon was a rebel. His closest friends were thieves and murderers and people who are a little bit outside of so-called normal society. He was also engaged in revolutionary activities against the king, and for that he was arrested and may have been executed, but because of some connections he was released, and after a few years he was arrested again, and this time he was banished from France at the age of 24. And we have no record of him after that age. So all the poetry that we have from Villon was written before the age of 24. And they are absolutely amazing, great poems. And they are all poems which are tilted against normal society. So you have this poem which is called Villon's Epitaph. An epitaph is something that you say about, in praise of people who are dead. He's using the title ironically, because in fact what he's representing to you is the death of his friends, the thieves. You know that in the 14th century France, and even in England, and I'm sure in various other countries, people who were caught stealing small things, like a loaf of bread or a piece of clothing from somewhere, were faced capital punishment. So they were killed, and this capital punishment was conducted in public before a whole audience, right? So here you have the thieves who are being hung in public in the marketplace, and Villon puts their epitaph into their own mouths. So like they are speaking to us. And I wanted to look at the amazing emotional contrasts that Villon conveys in this poem, Being outside of society, these people mock society. So they say mocking things about the people who have come to see them die. They say mocking things about their sense of justice. They question that sense of justice. They say, you do say that it is just because you are the majority. And you have imposed this sense of justice on us. Right? If we were to talk about our sense of justice, it would be very different. They make jokes about their own bodily corruption. But at the same time, they are also terrified, as one is normally to be expected. And they express that terror also. And then they seek relief from that terror through their connection with Jesus Christ and Mary, which, the country was so strongly Christian that even the people who were most outside of normal society, it had percolated right into their being as well. So their final crutch, their final area of solace is to ask for help from Christ and from Mary, right? So this is an amazing poem. Villon's Epitaph. O brothers, you live after us, because we share your revenue. God may have mercy upon you if you have mercy upon us. 5, 6, you see us tied up here. The flesh we overfed hangs here. Our carrion rots through skin and shirt, and we, the bones, have changed to dirt. Do not laugh at our misery. Pray God to save your souls and ours. We hang in chains to satisfy your justice and your violence. Brother humans, surely you see that all men cannot have good sense. Here, no man may look down on us. O child of Mary, pity us, forgive our crimes. If dying well saved even the poor thief from hell, the blood of Christ will not run dry. Pray God to save your souls and ours. The rain has soaked and washed us bare. The sun has burned us black. Magpies and crows have chiseled out our eyes, have jerked away our beards and hair. Our bodies have no time to rest. Our chains clank, north, south, east and west, now here, now there, to the winds dance. More beaks of birds than knives in France. Do not join our fraternity. Pray God to save your souls and ours. Prince Jesus, King of earth and air, preserve our bodies from hell's powers. We have no debts or business there. We were not hanged to make you laugh. Villon, who wrote our epitaph, praise God to save your souls and ours. Look at the kind of way in which they kind of this dark humor, when they say, here no man may look down on us. It's an amazing line, It's like, these thieves are already been looked down upon. That you are the lowest of society, you are the rubbish of our country. So people have always looked down on them. But they are hanging up there. And they're making this joke at their own expense, Now at last, no one can look down on us. It's an amazing, amazing poem.
Yeah. Any comments, please, from the audience? Please. Yes, go on. Please. Just please. Into the mic.
I thought there's a very effective contrast between the barbarism of the whole act of hanging them and it being such a spectacle for humanity, and the underlining of the fact that forgiveness is the cardinal virtue, and that you have to have compassion and kindness, and related to Jesus' own sacrifice of himself for the redemption of mankind.
Wonderful. You're right. The poem is full of contrasts. Wonderful contrasts.
Anyone else, please? Yes.
I think it's just not an epitaph on the death of the poets, it's an epitaph on the death of morality, humanity and justice as well. And then when all the time the poet says, pray to the God to save our souls and yours. So even after they have been executed for their crime, they are not hoping just for the betterment of themselves, but also for the betterment of the rest of the humanity, compared to the humanity which put them at stake and hanged them.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Anything else? Anyone else, please? Yes, please. Take the mic.
So the context in which the poem is written amazes me. It is at that junction of life and death, when he being a prisoner, he being a slave to whoever the superiors were, he has attained that freedom in which, by feeling that freedom, he is being able to convey his idea and point out at the superiors that like what you are doing is wrong, whatever you're doing is wrong. Like being free, he couldn't say that in front of the superiors, but being in that position with that ligature around his neck, he's being able to attain that freedom and convey his feelings.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you.
At that junction of life.
Anyone else? Yes, please, anyone?
Eggs.
Yeah, please.
On that, this line.
Just put the mic on, please.
I like this line when the poet says, pray God to save your souls and ours. He says your souls first, so whose crime is greater? I mean, stealing a loaf of bread or actually executing a fellow human being. So
Yes.
I found that interesting.
Wonderful.
Anyone else?
His angst of the poet reminds me of a book by Dr.M.V.L.Kothari, who wrote a huge book on science versus religion, in which he showed how science, religion tortured common men and prevented them from being fair to each other through scientific methods. Angst is terrible.
I'll just make a very short point here. It's a very powerful poem. It's a very passionate poem. I think I can almost imagine the scene. Criminals judged by people outside, being hung perhaps for criminality. We never know what the criminality was, but apparently he was a very, very, very remarkable criminal responsible for many criminal acts. That's what I read about it. Imagine the scene, being hanged, being watched by so many people, and then telling the audience, save our souls and save your souls as well. There is a nice sort of a thought onto that, saying that forgiveness would have been far more important than having to hang us, I think. That's why he says, if you save your souls, you will save our souls as well. How are they going to save your souls if you're going to kill us? That's the sort of thought behind the man and behind his colleagues or his friends, who are being hung. And I do like that, there's one line which is quite interesting here. This para is indeed interesting. The rain has soaked and washed us bare. The sun has burned us black. That's understandable. Magpies and crows have chiseled out our eyes, have jerked away our beards and hair. How do you think of that? What is it, just an exaggeration? Is it just telling you what they have suffered and what they have gone through? Because they're still alive when they are speaking this. So obviously their eyes have not been gouged out by magpies and crows. I think it's just to show how much they have suffered.
I think it's a kind of what you would call an enjambment of time. They are actually talking about a future moment when their dead bodies will be subjected to these
talking of it as if it is
mutilations.
talking as if it is the present.
That's right.
But it is as you could only do that, after you're dead. And
That's
you're
right.
being
Yeah.
done.
So they are foreseeing the mutilation that their bodies will undergo.
So it's a question of asking for the saving of their souls and telling them that God will save your souls if you save our souls. That's sort of a...
Yeah, there is a connection. Yes.
Right, you want to say something else? By all means.
Could it be this way that his soul has been free after being hanged? His soul has come out of the body and now he's no more limited to that body.
But he's not hanged yet. He's going to be hanged.
But then he's saying that nobody can look down.
Yeah,
That means he's already up there.
No, he's up there, but not hung above him.
I think one of the wonders of this poem is actually exactly this, how he manages these different time frames, so as to be able to be fully eloquent. So to give full verbal expression to the entire experience. He goes back into the past, about their misdeeds. He gives you the present where they are talking to you, and he also projects the future of the corrupted dead bodies. And he enjams all of these, into the one single time frame that you are in when you are reading the poem.
You can almost picture the scene.
It's a little bit like film. How a film will give you future shots and back shots and things like that. Okay. Ramanujan. A.K. Ramanujan died in 1993, again in his late 60s. He was a very remarkable man. He started the South Asia department in the University of Chicago, and that became one of the most important South Asian departments in the United States. He was a linguist, a scholar, an anthropologist, a poet himself in English and in Kannada, a great translator. There's a tradition of translation from Indian languages into English that he has started, and he has large numbers of wonderful students who are carrying on this work today. This is one of the last poems that he wrote before he died, and I suspect that he would have revised it considerably, because he was a great perfectionist, and his poems are literally like closely worked jewelry. They are that keen and that clear. This one is slightly muffled, but the essential poem is there, and I think it's a great poem even in this form. And so I always enjoy reading it to an audience. It's about the South Indian saint Arunagiri, who started life out as a wild guy, fully destructive to his family and to himself, and later on, becomes a saint whose songs are even today sung all over South India. And he gives you the process of the conversion, what happens to him. Of course, it's a symbolically presented conversion, but it's fascinating. You will see it. The last paragraph, Ramanujan talks about himself. And I think I need to tell you a little biographical detail. I'm not gossiping because the whole world knows it. That Ramanujan was very close to his wife, and they married and divorced twice over. So, in the last stanza, he's talking about one of the periods of his divorce when he was homeless, just as Arunagiri becomes homeless, right? Okay. Fear no fall. Arunagiri, rich and spoiled, spent his youth and old money, heirlooms and a sister's dowry on medieval liquors, honey mead and coconut arrack, pressing Arab wineskins into his mouth in coastal shipyards, and on women, till one of them sucked him dry of all his juices, gave him syphilitic sores in all the wrong places, and threw him out, a peel of many colors on the garbage heap. Unhoused, he roamed through the town, a target for moralists' fingers, a lesson for future generations, dripping with diseases for which they had no names yet, though quacks offered arsenic and antidotes. His despair deeper than his wounds, he struggled with bush and rubble up a cliff, surveyed the world he had lost in the valleys of light and shadow, towers and gardens and treetops, and just threw himself down. Yet he woke up, strangely surprised, smooth and whole again in every limb, lying in the lap of a very old man who smiled at him, wrinkled, through white hair on a dark face, 10 white strands on his chin like a Chinese sage, who said to him, "Sing now of Murugan." Arunagiri, truant extraordinary, escape artist, burglar of hearts, guzzler of all good things, who didn't have an alphabet in his past, nor ever a tune in his head, hated temple bells and hypocrisies, asked, "How can I, unlettered, worthless?" The old man was really the old man of the oldest Novas, gave him his first line of verse. And while Arunagiri turned it round and round like candy in his mouth, new lines forming all around the old man melted away like a figure in a fog, leading Arunagiri a lifetime of seeking and finding and losing him again and again in a labyrinth of winding words. His songs twining around trees, ensnaring passers-by, unlocking cages, even for maynas and parrots. That night, I was tottering without a foothold, on a ramshackle pyramid of all my books piled any which way onto a horse cart, and me slipping on top of it, without a door or a wall to my name, moving through a marketplace, moving through a market town, looking for a place, dropping books in several languages, all along the way, in a panic fear of falling and breaking my neck in the gutter below, when a voice both within and without said, "Fall! Fall! You'll never fear a fall again. Fall now." Obviously the seed of the poem, is in the word fall. And I think that all of us have a sense of what it means. Just as Arunagiri had a fall and he woke up cleansed, and Ramanujan, in his despair, in his moment of despair when he's houseless, gets the same voice which says, "Fall." I think it is let go. Let go what? I think it is let go your old ways of thinking. I think it is let go of your dead habitual life. I think it is, in a way, be reborn. Just as Arunagiri was reborn when the old man literally shoved a line of poetry. It's an amazing image, Shoved a line of poetry into his mouth as though it was something material, like a sweet going round and down his tongue. And those amazing poems came out, which have enraptured the whole of South India, And this is similarly, I think, Ramanujan is saying, maybe my redemption could be, in the same way. If I just let all my scholarly books remain on the horse cart, all the knowledge that I've accumulated, and just fall and become a newborn baby, So it's something like that. And he's also, again, like Kolatkar, Ramanujan uses language very slyly and beautifully, I mean, simple things like he spent his youth and old money, the conjunction of youth and old, and getting syphilis in all the wrong places. What is the right place to get syphilis? Yeah, an orange peel. I think, most of us here have seen what rotting, ulcers look like. They look like orange peel with fungus growing on it. So all of this. And a wonderful thing, when he says a lifetime of seeking and finding and losing him, God, so to speak. Seeking, finding, losing are the three actions in all bhakti poetry. Bhakti poetry, you have poems which are full of longing, seeking. When will I find you? Where will I find you? I've been searching for you all my life. Then there are the finding poems, where they say, I have found you, and I will never be the same again. I never want to move from this spot. Keep me with you forever, etc. And then losing. It says, after seeing you, to have lost you again. This is also what the saints go through. After having found you, to have lost you again. What a great deprivation. When will I find you again? So, in 3 words, he summarizes the whole extent of bhakti poetry. It's an amazing poem. Thank you.
Come on. Any comments, please? Come on. I'm sure you're going to comment on this, but yes.
Hello, sir. So actually, after reading the poem previously also and after hearing it from you, I actually got a notion that, initially he had no purpose. He was going purposeless. Like he had his life, he was enjoying it thoroughly. And suddenly there's a line, this despair is more deeper than the wounds. So he knows he's feeling worthless and he wants to change himself. And change itself is a beautiful process. It's a process basically. Yeah. So it's like he's trying to end himself, but it's like after fall, that's when you rise up. So what I thought was that after a fall and he found the monk, that's when he got the purpose for his life. And that's how...
Yeah, I think you put your finger on it, It's the most important line in a sense when he says, how can I do anything when I'm unlettered and worthless? I think the one redeeming factor in Arunagiri is that he has self-knowledge. He's a bastard. But he admits that he's one. He admits that he's a worthless man. And that is his salvation.
Anyone else, please? Anyone else? Yes, anyone? Yes.
Good afternoon, sir. Sir, the point when they mentioned that the moralists were pointing their fingers at Arunagiri, and then there was this one old man who just gave him one line of a poem, and then he was going about it and trying to find new ways of expressing it. So it just showed that if we just point out, if a person commits a mistake, if we just keep pointing out and just condemning him, he will not change. He did not change at that point. But then when he met the sage, when he met the old man, and just one line could have such an effect, he was not demoralizing him. And even though he expressed that I don't know anything, he just told him you can do it. You just gave him one line, and then it led to his change. Like as my friend pointed out, the change for that, the people who are around that person also, I feel they matter a lot. Because if you just keep on condemning them, it might lead to they'll get into depression or something. And whereas if you just give one push, one motivation that you can change.
Yes, but do you think that this old man was a real old man?
No, sir.
Who do you think he was?
So he was that inner voice, like...
Yes, it was a divine experience,
yeah.
if I may put it. It was an experience that suddenly came over him.
Yes.
It was almost like a divine experience. You might call the old man here, again, divinity, if I may say so. Really a very charming and fantastic poem with, again, beautiful imagery and a great moral in this. And I like some of the turn of phrase. Like, for example, when he says, the old man was really the old man of the oldest Noahs. Noahs is from Dante's Inferno. And Noahs in Dante's great work was the highest abode of heaven. So he was from Noahs, meaning from divinity, from the highest point. He gave him this first line of verse, and while Arunagiri turned it round and round like candy. I think that's beautiful. It's really beautiful. Just imagine a line which he turns round and round in his tongue like candy, in his mouth like candy. New lines forming all around the old man. That means new lines forming godly lines, lines of goodness, lines of holiness forming all around the old man.
Intense emotional honesty.
That's seeking, as you rightly pointed out. These are beautiful lines, and these really give you what man really does in life. He seeks, he finds, he loses, he seeks again, and he finds again. It's a never-ending circle of seeking, finding, perhaps losing, then perhaps seeking again, and perhaps finding again. You mentioned about changing your old habits. I have a more down-to-earth explanation about this last line, which is somehow I felt there was a little bit of a come down after this beautiful imagery, you know, that he says, and then he says about himself that of all along the way, in a panic fear of falling and breaking my neck. He describes himself. It's a little bit of a come down when he describes himself compared to the experience of Arunagiri, somehow I feel. You know, it comes, and when he says, my feeling is the last line is extremely important when he says, when a voice both within and without said, fall, fall, you will never fear a fall again, fall now. It also might mean something very simple. That you can fall, you may not be afraid to fall, because remember, if you fall, you can pick yourself again and perhaps rise to a height far more than what you were before you fell. That's also a way of looking at it.
Yeah, do we have time?
Yes, yes. Okay.
I'm coming to 20th century Russia, and the poet is Anna Akhmatova, and I think you need to know, I think most of you do know it, but very quickly I will revise it. The historical setting is the time of the USSR, the Soviet Union, one of the most repressive regimes that humanity has ever encountered. The guy who was at the head of his empire at that time, 1950s, 55, was Joseph Stalin, mass murderer, and a man who rivals Hitler, in the kind of carnage that he set loose. Now, a very interesting thing about these kinds of dictators, who are in fact people who are very empty inside themselves, is that there's a tremendous envy and hatred and jealousy of people who are riches inside. So that they especially target artists and scientists, because they know that they do not have that kind of wealth of inner life. And they know that the whole world is admiring this poet, this scientist, this artist, but nobody's going to admire him, right? So Anna Akhmatova was one of the greatest poets working at that time in Russia. She was, I believe, an astonishingly beautiful woman who had a large number of love affairs, and the whole country more or less worshipped her literature. Stalin persecuted her like he persecuted all the other writers around him. But he couldn't do the worst, because he knew that if he were to do something really bad to Anna Akhmatova, the country would not tolerate it. She was that powerful as an artist. So he got to her by tormenting her husband, her son, and things like that, So there's a great deal of suffering, behind this great poet's life. Now, the poems are also extraordinary because there are a large number of them, going into several hundreds, and they are almost exclusively, all of them, love poems. And they are beautiful love poems. And the question that immediately comes to our mind is, we know that she had many love affairs, but she couldn't possibly have had hundreds. And each of these poems is a specific love experience. It's not generalized. One kind of a love affair is captured in those 3 or 4 stanzas. So what's happening here? I think what is happening is that she is taking on the love life of humanity, not just her own. And in poem after poem, she's exploring the love life, the erotic impulses of human beings, and the various vicissitudes that the love life is subject to. They are almost always tragic, or they have dark humor in them, So I'll give you 3 of these. They are each of them utterly beautiful. I pressed my hands together under cover of my veil. Why are you so pale today? Because I intoxicated my lover with numbing anguish and drove him away. How could I forget? He went out reeling, his mouth dreadful, twisted, grim. I ran down the stairs, not touching the railing. At the gate, I caught up with him. I shouted hoarsely, "It was just a joke. You mustn't leave me. I'd rather be dead." He smiled calmly, terribly. Then he spoke. "Don't stand out here in the wind," he said. That's it. Amazing, actually. 3 stanzas, to give you this extraordinary picture of a woman who's wanting to test her lover by making him suffer, and thinks that she can repair it, and then she has to face this terrible sentence, "Don't stand out there in the wind," which says everything and nothing. Okay, one more. And here the second
Shall we ask them to? This is nice. Shall we ask them to comment on this?
On which one?
This one is very nice. Okay. Anyone wanting to comment on this, please? Anyone?
Beautiful.
Yes, I think it's a beautiful. I love these Russians, both the authors and the poets, and I would strongly recommend that you pick up some of the books by some great Russian authors who will give you an infinite view and a great numbing view on life. I won't go into that just now, but I love this poem, really. I love this poem intensely. Look at the language, for example, and remember this is a translation. What must it have looked like in the original?
And it's a marvelous translation.
Yes, remarkable. I intoxicated my lover with numbing anguish. Beautiful. And look at him going away. His mouth dreadful, twisted, grim. And then the last sentence. Don't stand out here in the wind, he said. Look at the starkness of the sentence. The indifference embodied within that sentence. It's far, far more cruel than saying, "I don't care for you anymore, go away," isn't it? It's much, much worse than saying, "Go away, my dear, I don't like you, I don't care for you, it's all over between us." Instead he says, "Don't stand out here in the wind." The starkness of the sentence, the indifference, and the cruelty underlying it, just that sentence, is indeed remarkable. Would you agree?
Thank you, Mark. That's marvelous, Doctor. Thank you.
Let's see the next one.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a poem about honor killing, which we are all familiar with. In the woods.
Quietly.
4 eyes shine, 4 diamonds. My 2 and the owls too overhead. How terrible is the tale that ends with the death of my beloved. My words ring out, senseless and mordant. I'm lying in the grass, damp and green. And from above, looking oh so important, the owl listens, quiet and keen. We are surrounded by firs that tighten our breath. The sky, a black square, continues to hover. You know, don't you, about his death? He was killed by my elder brother. It wasn't in war or its aftermath. It wasn't in combat or bloody strife, but coming to see me on a forest path that my lover lost his life. And the drama of it, you know, I mean, she starts with talking about her eyes and the owl's eyes, you know, and then she says, terrible, my lover died. She gives you the end of the thing in one line like that, and then she explores it, you know. She explores her despair. My words ring out. She's crying, she's wailing in the forest, and the owl is listening. That's the only one who's listening. And then she says casually, you know, don't you, that he was killed by my elder brother, almost as though she's saying that he went to have tea with him, you know. And then she says, it wasn't in war or strife, but just coming to see me. Great. Anybody?
Yes, please. You haven't finished it.
Yeah, I have.
You have?
Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't in war or its aftermath. It wasn't in combat or bloody strife, but coming to see me on a forest path. That's another one. Yeah, that's the third one.
Broad and yellow.
Yeah.
That's the
third one.
Yes, any comments on this, please? It wasn't in war or its aftermath. It wasn't in combat or bloody strife, but coming to see me on a forest path that my lover lost his life. How would that be?
Because the brother kills him.
Yes, but why should the brother kill him?
It's an honor killing, I think.
Exactly. Just going to say that. That's very much like that in Russia, as it is today, for example, in many Middle Eastern countries, Afghanistan, etc.
UP.
Not also in our part of the world also, of course, that if the brother finds that the person whom his sister is going to marry or has an affair with is not nice, or for some reason is demeaning to his honor, to the honor of the family, he should be killed. And that's almost certainly, this was also an honor killing. It's quite picturesque. Look at the owl. Why the owl? Because the owl is wise. The owl listens. That's why the owl. Figurative here is the person who is listening. There's no real owl perhaps. It's an imaginary owl. Or she sees an owl, but is wise, quiet, and listening. Can we go on?
Thank you, yes. This last poem is full of black humor, but it's a terrible kind of black humor, you know, and it's magnificent again. You know. And always she introduces it, she starts out by talking about something kind of almost trivial, you know, like the owl and herself, here like evening light, and then suddenly, wham, she gets subdued. Broad and yellow is the evening light. The coolness of April is dear. You, of course, are several years late. Even so, I'm happy you are here. Sit close at hand and look at me, with those eyes so cheerful and mild. This blue notebook is full, you see, full of poems I wrote as a child. Forgive me for having grieved, for ignoring the sunlight too. and especially for having believed that so many others were you.
Just explain that to us, please.
She's saying that there are many fish in the ocean. And it's beautifully constructed, you know. It starts by saying, oh, what a lovely evening. You're late. But how late? Several years late, you know. You remember how you were lovers as children, and one day you said that, you know, you'll never forget me. But, you know, you forgot me pretty soon and went away to Moscow or wherever. And in the meantime, I was writing poems in this little blue book. Want to see the book? This blue notebook is full, you see, of poems I wrote as a child, you know. She says, and this is, forgive me for having grieved. Why did I waste my time?
I suppose that's one way of looking at it. Forgive me for having grieved. There's another beautiful line after that. For ignoring the sunlight too. Might well mean that perhaps she was in a shell, grieving, letting the world go by, not letting light in. And now that you come back, I am out of my shell and seeing the sun again, seeing the light again, and will have my fun.
I'll disagree with you, Doctor.
This is what I thought that it means. Forgive me for having grieved.
I think she's being ironical.
But wait, is that ironic? And missing the sunlight too.
Yeah, that's a kind of throwaway line, you know.
So
Yeah, and she talks about grief, which is a big kind of emotion.
I somehow have been a little more innocent than, and I had the feeling that, you know, she was truly grieving. And she was truly in a shell. Now that the summer comes back, she sees something. Let's go on.
Okay. It's the last one. You've been an audience full of stamina. Thank you for listening so carefully. Okay, this poem is by Ted Hughes, the 20th century British poet, and there's a little personal history that we need to know in order to get to this poem. Sylvia Plath was an American poet who came on a scholarship to England when she was hardly a teenager. She must have been around 20, 21 or so. At that time, she met Ted Hughes, who was a slightly older senior poet, probably in his 30s, who already had a fantastic reputation. Sylvia Plath was completely unknown at that time as a writer. The two fell in love and they got married. Sylvia Plath was plagued by large numbers of personal problems, psychological problems. She used to get into terrible states of depression. She was suicidal. She had great conflicts with her father, which haunted her all her life. She made several attempts at suicide which were not successful, and finally one that was. The relationship between Ted Hughes and Sylvia Plath also is one which is very fraught. I think that obviously there was a tremendous bond between them. But being the kind of people they were, there were also things that were tearing them apart. However, this poem is about one incident in this setting. Marion Moore is an elder poet, American, who's older than both of them. She is a great poet. She uses language in a kind of way that has never been used before. So, you know, she's very celebrated. She is a lone woman. She spent all her life with her mother in a kind of a remote flat in Brooklyn on top of a building. picture. So they were like two spinsters. And then when the mother dies, Marilyn Moore lives by herself in that little flat. Important writers and poets like T.S. Eliot, Ezra Pound, William Carlos Williams would actually come in homage to meet her on this little flat. So Sylvia Plath one day, Sylvia Plath, like everybody else, admired her poetry. So they one day kind of, she says, to her husband, I want to show my poems to Marilyn Moore. Now, Marilyn Moore's poetry has American optimism in it. She's a lone woman, and so she has a lot of problems herself, but her poems tend to move towards the sunlight by using certain poetic devices like the armor, sports. She wrote poems on baseball because sports is something where life is taking place under certain rules, and her terror of life is protected by those rules, So Marilyn Moore was the kind of poet who wrote for the sunlight, used various devices for it. Sylvia Plath wrote about black despair, and she had no defenses. So her poems are like suffocating cages, where the despair has no way out. So when she shows these poems to Marilyn Moore can't take them. They're too suffocating. And she returns them with a slightly offhand remark. She said, you carbon copied these poems rather untidily. That's all. And Sylvia Plath is the kind of person she is. She goes into despair. She goes into a nervous breakdown just by this rejection. And Ted Hughes has to nurse her all the way up again. And Hughes hates Marilyn Moore from that point onwards. And this whole poem, we just read some love poems. This poem is a hate poem. And I also want to tell you that poetry is not pious. Poetry is not pious. Poetry deals with all kinds of raw human situations, even so-called negative ones. Because poetry is about life and living, ultimately. Yeah? So this is a great hate poem. And it picks, and hate gives you a special kind of a extra sharp sight. So you pick on all the terrible things that are there in the person that you hate, as you will see. He mocks all of Marilyn Moore's American qualities, including the fact that old American ladies tend to overuse their makeup. And ironically titles the poem The Literary Life. The Literary Life. We climbed Marilyn Moore's narrow stair to her bowerbird bric-a-brac nest in Brooklyn. Daintiest curio relic of Americana. Her talk, unneedle, unresting, darning incessantly, chain-mail with cruel work flowers. Birds and fish of the reef in phosphor bronze wire. These are her various subjects of her poetry. Her face, tiny American tree bobbin on a spindle. Her voice, the flickering hum of the old wheel. Then the coin. Marilyn Moore had a jar of coins, and when you left, you were supposed to take one to put into the subway. A little ritual, compulsory. Then the coin, compulsory for the subway. Back to our quotidian scramble. Why shouldn't we cherish her? You sent her carbon copies of some of your poems. Everything about them, the ghost gloom, the constriction, the bell jar air conditioning, made her gasp for oxygen and cheer. She sent them back. Whoever has her letter has her exact words. Since these seem to be valuable carbon copies, somewhat smudged, I shall not engross them. Marilyn was famous for the funny use of her words, so I shall not engross them. I took the point of that engross precisely like a bristle of glass snapped off deep in my thumb. You wept and hurled yourself down a floor or two farther from the Empyrean. I carried you back up, and she, Mariam, tight and brisk, neat and hard as an ant, slid into the second or third circle of my inferno. A decade later, after Plathers died, a decade later, on her last visit to England, holding court at a party, she was sitting bowed over her knees, her face under her great hat's brim, floppy petal, dainty and bright as a piece of confetti. She wanted me to know, she insisted, it was all she wanted to say, with that Missouri needle drawing each stitch tight in my ear, that your little near-posthumous memoir, Ocean 1212, was so wonderful, so lit, so wonderful. That last little piece of thing that Sylvia Plath had written. She bowed so low, I had to kneel. I kneeled and bowed my face close to her upturned face. That seemed tinier than ever, and studied as through a grill, her lips, that put me in mind of a child's purse made of the skin of a dormouse. Her cheek, as if she had powdered the crumpled silk of a bat's wing. And I listened, heavy as a graveyard, while she searched for the grave where she could lay down her little wreath.
Any comments? I think you should know, I don't think you would, but you should know that the romance between Hughes and Sylvia Plath was one of the great romances of the 20th century. And you should also know that when Sylvia Plath committed suicide, the whole, a great part of the poetic world and the literary world condemned Hughes, holding him responsible for her death. And he kept quiet for a very, very long time, until he ultimately wrote a last letter, which was very revealing as to the nature and the reason and the last day on which this girl, who was just 30 when she killed herself. As doctors rightly pointed out, she was unbalanced. And I would just like to speak some words on one of these poems that she wrote called The Mad Girl's Love Song. And it's quite unusual. This is how she says, I shut my eyes and all the world dropped dead. I open my eyes and all is born again. I think I made you up into my mind, within my mind. You can imagine, the madness of this whole thing. When she said, I think I made you up within my mind. It just shows, how unstable she was. But she was indeed a very great poet, and there are many who would consider her on a par with Hughes.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
So that's how it is. Any more comments, or shall we? I'll just make a few comments. I'm not going to ask for any critical appreciation. I'm going to speak a few verses, or recite a few verses of some great poems, short poems. keep quiet. I wonder if you've heard of T.S. Eliot. He was one of the great poets founding modern history. If you look at the world today, you know what a sad world it is. Look at the Middle East. Men, women and children being killed. The refugees. Look at the terror all around the world. The same thing happened sometime after the First World War, and it was in 1921 that he wrote one of his most famous poems. It was called The Wasteland. And you might say that this is a wasteland, but look how it seems in poetry. This is how he says, "What are the roots that clutch? What branches grow out of this stony rubbish? Son of man, you cannot say or guess, for you know only a heap of broken images. Where the sun beats, the dead tree gives no shelter, the dry stone no sound of water. There is a shadow under this red rock. Come under the shadow of this red rock, and I shall show you something different from either that shadow in the morning which paces behind you, or the shadow in the evening which hastens to meet you. I shall show you fear in a handful of dust." Isn't that beautiful? One of his great poems was The Love Life of Kufra, which is indeed a remarkable. This is a man who wants to propose to a woman, who wants to give his intentions to a woman, but he's so self-effacing, he's so sort of timid that he cannot bring himself to do so. And he passes his whole life, becomes an old man, loss of hair, loss of teeth, everything, and can't make up his mind. And then this is how he says towards the end of the poem, "I grow old, I grow old. I shall wear the bottom of my trousers low. Shall I part my hair behind? Do I dare eat a peach? I shall wear white flannel trousers and walk upon the beach. I have seen the mermaids sing each to each. I know they will not sing to me. I have seen them riding seawards on the waves, combing the white hair of the waves blown back, whilst the wind blows the water white and black. We have lived long in the chambers of the sea, by seagulls wreathed with seaweeds red and brown, when human voices wake us and we drown." And lastly, a poem found in the pocket of a soldier. No one knows what death is, what the aftermath of death is, and this soldier had this poem in his pocket, which was given to his parents in case he died in battle. And he did die in battle. And I think this is a beautiful poem. I wonder if you heard it. Let me just say it out to you. "Do not stand on my grave and weep. I am not there, I do not sleep. I am the thousand winds that blow. I am the diamond glints on snow. I am the gentle autumn rain. I am the sunrise, the sunshine that grows on the grain. I am the gentle autumn rain. When you awaken in the hush of dawn, I am the swift uprushing rush of quiet birds in cycle storm. I am the stars that shine softly at night. Do not stand on my grave and cry, I am not there, I did not die." Right. And lastly, let me remind you again, a study of humanities makes a better physician. It gives you a sense of humanity. It gives you a sense and sensibility that perhaps helps you conduct your life in a proper manner. It enables you to grasp the importance and and the influence on the mind, of the mind on human behavior, of the mind on the mind-body complex. It inculcates perhaps moral and ethical values which in today's fast-changing world have unfortunately declined in almost all fields of human endeavor. It also gives you an understanding about human nature, about the resilience of the human body and the human mind. And it inculcates also care and compassion, so that you feel that you are not only in a profession, but that you are in a calling which insists that you care for your patients. And finally, it teaches you more about suffering than anything else. Poetry, literature, everything teaches you about suffering. It teaches you about how human beings can be shattered by suffering, how they can bear suffering with calm, coolness and philosophy. And it also teaches you that sometimes it is suffering that ignites the genius of some talented men, great talented men, in whom suffering has been responsible for the outspokenness or the expression of their genius, an expression which has enhanced and benefited the world. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for the beautiful words in the session. I would now like to call upon Dr. Sunil Pandya, sir, to express his views.
Dr. Gieve Patel praised you for your stamina. What he did not refer to at all was the magic that he wore, which would have made it impossible for you not to concentrate. You will agree that this morning has been a magical morning for us. We've had two individuals, both of whom are physicians, but both of whom are extremely well versed in wide areas outside the limited fields of medicine. They are men of letters, and we have been privileged to have them with us today, and they have truly given us an amazing morning. We are hoping that this little germ which was sown a year ago, this little seed which was sown a year ago to commemorate the memory of Dr.M.V.L. Kothari, will eventually grow into a full-fledged department in this institution. We desperately need such departments. We are fortunate in that in India we have 3 departments already that have been functioning, and we have learned from them. We hope to improve upon those departments. It will take us some time to build this department because there are hurdles to be crossed. But we have friends who are helping us in this endeavor. We have friends like the individuals on my left, and we have friends right in front of us. I do not know how much time it will take for this department to start functioning, but when it does, this institution will have another feather in its cap. Because, as Dr. Kothari has quite rightly pointed out, the humanities are desperately needed today. We are woefully deficient in the arts. Our entire educational system in schools and colleges is geared to making us a factory that churns out marks. We are intended to produce 99.9% marks in every exam. And in order to do so, we have to shut ourselves from all these riches which make man, man. So we are very grateful to both of you. been a great pleasure and an honor, and I'm sure our youngsters here will imbibe a little bit of love for the arts which you have shown so well. Thank you.
Thank you.
I call upon Dr. Nandini Devi to propose the vote of thanks.
It's my privilege to propose a vote of thanks. We thank Dr. Kothari, Chairperson, for today's function, for gracing the invitation, sir, for your insights into poetry and your words of wisdom. I call upon Dr. Padmaja to present the memento to Dr. Kothari. Dr. Gieve Patel. Poetry is the music of the soul, and above all, a great feeling souls. Thank you so much, sir, for this lovely meeting. It was our pleasure. Dr. Pandya, Chair, Medical Humanities. Not a day goes by when sir doesn't send an email or a quote to our core committee. And there are times I think when I feel I don't have the time, but then the weekend I'll sit down with my cup of coffee and read the emails you send me, sir. Thank you so much. Please, the memento to Dr. Pandya. I thank Dean sir for his continual support towards all our endeavors. Sachin Mahadev for the lovely Rangoli which is there outside the MLT. You, the lovely audience, for being here in large numbers and for participating in this meeting. The auditorium staff for all the arrangements. And please do join us for tea outside.